us today and tuning in to the RWTA Chilled Out series. I have with me Andrew Latimer of Green Peak Energy, a new member of the RWTA. Welcome, Andrew.
Hi, Marianne. Thanks so much for that warm welcome, and we're really excited to be, associating with the RWTA and I guess the opportunities that might arise through this association. So.
Yeah, energy is a big deal for the cold chain. And to do with that, Green Peak Energy, and I think this is, the differentiation. Green Peak Energy install, own and maintain solar systems and bill you for the power that's produced. As I understand it, you're similar to an energy retailer, but you generate power on site rather than remotely, avoiding that transmission and most of the retailer costs. So the customer remains connected to the grid for the residual energy requirements. Can you expand on that for me?
Yeah, absolutely. So Green Peak Energy, as you said, own, operate, maintain, in this case for cold storage businesses, solar systems on premise or behind the meter. So the energy being generated is directly linked to that business as it's being generated and then being consumed. Like you said, we're similar to a retailer, but we're not actually a retailer. We actually hold a retailer exemption license in every state of Australia and also in New Zealand. So we operate throughout all of Australia and New Zealand. And what Green Peak Energy does is with prospective clients, we'll help design, go to market for the best price for installation of a solar system that is sized specifically for that client's needs. The way we do that is have a look at your consumption data, and we design primarily, and I guess for cold storage especially, a system that isn't exporting to the market. We want you to use, or our customers to use, the energy that is generated from that system on site. Now, what that ends up looking like, I guess, from a numbers perspective or from a cost perspective is generally a rate that's cheaper than what you'll be able to procure from the market for the amount of energy that we are producing. Obviously, we'll never produce all of your energy. Cold storage operates 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, but the system will generate during generation time. So from essentially 6 a.m., let's say, until 6 p.m., depending on where you are in the world, obviously. But when it's generating, that system, that energy will be used on site. And I guess when you're talking about the cost of energy, and you've got all these other fees that you talked about, which are things like retailer connection fees, you'll still have that retailer connection fee because you'll still need to be connected to a retailer through what we do. But things like environmental costs and essentially anything from a network perspective that's billed in cents per kilowatt hour will be offset in this system or taken away for the amount of energy you can procure through a system on your roof. It tends to be that the washed outcome is much cheaper or considerably cheaper in the realm of between, say, 20 to 70%, depending on what your cost of energy is. And it's specific to different markets and different network providers as well. But we tend to see savings between that 20 and 70% mark for clients once we have a system on the roof generating.
Okay, I've got a question for you because this always comes up with cold chain. Quite often we feel as if the big guys are looked after really well. Can you cater to smaller businesses?
Oh, look, absolutely. Yeah, the smallest system we'll deploy is 50 kilowatts. Now, to put that in perspective, anyone with cold storage is going to need a system larger than that during the day. And the largest, there is no limit. So it's all about sizing specifically for each customer. And in fact, even that 50 kilowatt size system will go below that if you have a number of different buildings. So say you have 2 or 3 sites and they only need 30 kilowatts each or 25 kilowatts each. Absolutely, we'll be able to deploy some smaller systems if we can aggregate to 50 kilowatts. Look, generally speaking, anything below that kind of 50 kilowatt system, the capital expenditure cost to deploy that system, and then I guess for us to own, maintain, and operate that, there are some costs involved. It tends to sometimes tip the other way, but anything over 50 kilowatts and over, absolutely. And I think you'll find that even your smallest operators who are members of the RWTA would need a 50 kilowatt system, definitely.
Okay, second question, because again, this always comes up is, look, I'm leasing. I have no power over what I do. Is there anything that you can do, or is that just out of the question?
Great question. About 60% of our systems deployed are actually on leased roofs.
Right.
So we work extremely closely, and we see this as a partnership with both the end user, our client, our installing network, and the landlords. So if you are leasing a property, it's no problem at all. We have very friendly terms, I guess was the nicest way to say that. If you're leasing, and our agreements are power purchase agreements behind the meter. What that just means is you're purchasing the power produced, like we talked about. So we, because we own and operate the system, we put in an agreement with the landlord to have that system on the roof. Sometimes that means us paying the landlord some roof rental space. Other times the landlord won't require that. They're just happy to have the system there. And if the tenant moves out during the term of our agreement, then we work with the landlord to enter into a new agreement with the incoming tenant, and we don't hold the tenant accountable for having to move out. So they're very friendly terms if you're leasing. If you own the property, you can. There's a couple of things, I guess, that we can do if that was an eventuation during an agreement. But generally, what we'd look at is a buyout figure, depending on where you are at in the term of the agreement, that the system can then be rolled into the price of the sale of the building. And most owners absolutely appreciate that. They see it as an asset. We can end that agreement through a buyout, and the system can go with the building. Alternatively, we can novate as well for an incoming owner of a building.
That's super flexible. I'm really pleased to hear that, because quite often that is a barrier to enter. Last question from me. CBRE, do they own you? Did I understand that correctly?
Yeah, that's correct. So CBRE, about a year and a half ago, took a managing share in Green Peak Energy. They're now at 60% ownership of us. And, to have the global property giant that is CBRE having a managing share of the business means a couple of things. It gives us amazing financial stability in our market, or in our business model. Other providers sometimes, I think a lot of times, have to go and seek finance through a third party in order to provide the funding for the system that then gets on charge to the client for the through the purchase of the generated electricity. That just means the end result is generally a little bit higher, but it also puts the business in our position in a bit of a risky environment. We don't have to do that. We can just go straight. Our bank is CBRE. The cash is there. It's an international investment fund owned by CBRE. It's tap on the door, and the cash is delivered. And what that means for us is we're able to be very, very competitive in the market. And we've sourced, on top of that, we only use tier 1 installers, tier 1 products, so panels, racking, and inverters. And the reason is, like I said earlier, is this is about a partnership. So we want the system to generate as it should, as per our agreement, for the term of the agreement, because that's where we recoup our income. But we also want the client to get that reliable supply of cheaper electricity through the system. It means that we look for things like Australian-based and compliant warranties, that we are ensuring that every product that goes on a roof or is associated with it meets modern slavery guidelines. It also means that they're reliable systems. And I guess the same thing goes for our installer network. We only use tier 1 installers, and those are installers who operate in a safe environment, have a track record of excellence of installation, will be able to, install across a wide range of different installation areas. And I think particularly for cold chain, with a lot of clear span roofing, it's really important to understand loads on a roof, but also what might be underneath that roof, and there are specific ways to install solar onto insulated panel roofing to ensure the integrity of that structure isn't damaged, and we don't get things like internal rot because of water coming in and things like that. So
Perfect.
there I guess there's a team of expertise internally with us, from retailers, engineers, embedded network backgrounds, all coming together, and then also utilising a very vast array of installers. Last thing I think on that point is, how can a business within the RWTA start a process with us? There's one of two ways. You can come directly to us, and then we'll go through a open procurement process basically with you. Getting the best, most competitive capital expenditure price, or CapEx, on the system then leads to the most competitive electricity rate we can give you for the energy it's generating. So the other alternative is you can go to any installer, or what we call an EPC, or an engineering, procurement and construction company within this space, and generally speaking, they'll probably be within our circle of operation, or if they're not, you can still bring it to us, or they can still bring it to us, and we can work with them. Our requirements would be that they had those HSE capabilities, and that they had a track record of being able to deploy systems of the size and complexity that we're talking about, to make sure that everything goes smoothly.
Yeah, look, I think 2024 is the year of sustainability, Andrew, and I can see how Green Peak Energy will be able to save the cold chain plenty of money in the year ahead. And it's great to hear that there are such positive solutions ahead for the refrigerated warehouses in the year ahead. And I'd like to thank you for speaking with me today, Andrew.
Oh, thanks so much, Marianne. Look, I'll just say there's an opportunity with Green Peak Energy to have no capital outlay solar on your roofs that's going to save you money, and you don't have to own it, operate it, insure it, or fix it if something goes wrong. That's our job. It's just about delivering cheaper energy for the end client.
You're making it easy for us. Thank you so much. Looking forward to speaking to you soon, and introducing you further into the global cold chain, and particularly into Australia.
Thanks so much, Marianne. Cheers.
Thanks.